I gotta be home by 8, lunch is 7:10. I mean, here's our world, and everybody's got their show.
You recognize you.
You get your gallon right now.
Let us know how it is.
I'm new to the area. Is this a thing? They have food. No, I wish I would have watched last year. On your way
He's got to get some water to wash his cookies down.
Hey, can you bring me a gin tonight?
If you give a Joe a cookie, he's going to want to walk home.
They should have a cake.
There's already too many people advertising.
So you get the street.
That's definitely not worth
And hope they didn't pick you. Right?
I gotta go back. Look at this.
You want to make sure that one is
Either way, so we can all the beer.
Anything else, boss?
No, sir, that's enough for me.
For those looking for seats, we still got some right here in the front and right here in the front.
You're expecting it.
Paid for some personal protection. I think I'm going to make sure I'm safe. So I can say something.
All ready to start? 6 o'clock on the dot. Okay. Welcome, I'm Janine Wilson. I'm the president of the CIO, Community Involvement Organization. We also have our staff, Christine is out in at the sign-in desk. Kate Monte is our secretary, and Rocky Dixon is our land use officer. I also wanted to thank Megan George, or Megan. She really helps with the CIOs and for these meetings. Can you put up the review of the agenda? you. Moving on. Tualatin city staff presentations will occur next for 30 minutes time. We're going to hear from Steve Cober. He's our Assistant Community Development Director, our City Engineer, Mike McCarthy, and the Police Chief, Greg Pickering, and Police Sergeant Chris Turner up here. Then we're going to have, that should last about 30 minutes. Then we have an open forum, and Brett, you probably all know Brett, not Hamilton, in the back, he's doing the spokesperson, and very influential in getting the Tualatin Save the Road message out to the community with the concerns. So he'll moderate that forum. We will also take written questions, as you saw some cards out on the desk. I can come around with cards if you want to submit a written question rather than ask a question. And then our closing is going to be by the Secretary, Kate Tualatin. And we're going to be out of here at 7:30. Okay. All right. So, who are we pointing to?
The recording.
Oh, I'm sorry. Brett has set up a recording there. Does anybody, so that's with the Save Tualatin Road group. Does anybody have any objections to that? No, raise your hand. No objections? Okay, let's move on.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the CIO for having us, city staff, and giving us the opportunity to present on this wet, rainy night. Thanks to all of you for coming here on your Tuesday. Our presentation tonight, we'll try to keep it in that 30-minute time frame. Introduction, so Jean was kind enough to introduce us already. I am Steve Cooper, Assistant Community Development Director. Mike McCarthy, City Engineer, will also be presenting. He's there in the back in the blue shirt. And then our Police Chief, Greg Pickering, over here to my right, will also be presenting. So our actual presentation tonight will consist of some information from our Police Patrol Division. Mike will talk about the existing transportation system in the area, particularly the area of the Riverpark CIO. I'll talk a little bit about Lam's application, the application process generally, give some additional information and pointers and tips about the public involvement process, and then conclude with the status, the current status of Lam's applications, and then turn it back over to Mike to take us through the end of the presentation with some information about traffic in the Riverpark area, and then future safety and traffic improvements. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief.
My name is Greg Pickering. I'm the Chief of Police here in Tualatin. I've been with the City of Tualatin for almost 20 years, 20 years in March, but I was born and raised in Tualatin and actually lived on Chippewa Trail for many, many years. So this would have been my CIO if I hadn't moved out of town about 5 years ago. So I'm very familiar with this area and the growth and expansion that has been when I grew up on this on Chippewa Trail, right on the corner. Actually, of Chippewa and Tualatin Road. Olive Jurgens Park was actually strawberry fields that my brother and I picked. So there's been a ton of information. So just a brief overview of the police department right now and what it looks like in our patrol division, and then I'll have some statistics that have directly to do with Tualatin Road. So our patrol division currently works 10-hour shifts. We are a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365-day a year. We never close. We're always here. Each shift, so we have 3 shifts, a day shift, a swing shift, and a night shift. All of those shifts are staffed with between 4 or 5 officers and a patrol sergeant. It's in the back of the room, so I do want to give special credit to Sergeant Chris Turner, who's in the back of the room. Each CIO has a supervisor or a sergeant that is responsible for that area. And so Sergeant Chris Turner is the District 3 supervisor, which is this CIO, and we'll get to that in just a second. So our patrol division also includes our K9 Tony, which is our narcotics protection K9, and K9 Boone, who's our newest addition. He is a patrol K9. He's actually in school right now. And our mental health resource officer. We also have 2 traffic officers that are on motorcycles, so I'm sure that's something that people are interested about. The patrol division is broken up into 4 districts. So this, our east side of Tualatin, Meridian Park, and that area over there is our District 1. District 2 is the south end of town. The north, what we call the north end of Tualatin, which is this location, this neighborhood, is our District 3 or Patrol District 3. And we do provide police services for the city of Durham, and that is our District 4. So District 3, which is this area in the green here, which encompasses almost your entire CIO, is our District 3, which Sergeant Turner is our District 3 supervisor. So stats, what does stats look like specifically for Tualatin Road and Hazelbrook Road? So this is a snapshot of traffic stops conducted by officers on Tualatin Road, which was 218 from October 1st of 2023 to October 1st of 2024, in comparison to 38 traffic stops on Hazelbrook Road. Most of the traffic stops on Hazelbrook Road have to do with the school zone, and our school resource officers out enforcing speed enforcement on the school zone. We did increase some of our enforcement actions on Tualatin Road based upon some of the crash statistics that you will see, which is our next slide. So this is a 3-year snapshot of traffic collisions on Tualatin Road in the blue and on Hazelbrook in the orange. So 23 in 2022, 20 in 2023, and because of some of the increased enforcement, we've seen 9 traffic collisions on Tualatin Road in 2024 and 4 on Hazelbrook. So Hazelbrook Road, most of those collisions, if not all those collisions, are based upon the intersections that are along Hazelbrook. And Tualatin Road is a mix of intersection, and a lot of those are the following too close to people not stopping at usually 124th or closer to Herman Road. So, but that is the whole stretch of Tualatin Road. So starting at the police department and working all its way out to Highway 99. So that is a brief snapshot of the police department and some of the traffic related issues that come with Tualatin Road. So I'm going to leave it at that and hand it back over to Steve, and then if there's any questions, we'll be there towards the end.
Thank you, Chief. So before we get into a little bit more information about the traffic situation in the area and information about the LAM applications and the public process and so forth, just wanted to give a little bit of overview of the Community Development Department, which Mike and I are a part of. It comprises 23 employees total. So there's a big team behind the work that we do. We do everything from land use planning, so that's long range planning, and then implementation of codes as they apply to applications, the LAM application. Our engineering division does a lot of work. They both do implementation of capital improvements, so like major sewer projects or roadway projects that are then handed over to our public works department for maintenance. And then our building division inspects buildings to make sure that they're safe and occupiable. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mike to talk a little bit about area trip.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening. I'm Mike McCarthy. I'm a city engineer. And our group, as Steve mentioned, has a couple functions. One is delivering capital projects, so road improvements, like some of the improvements around your neighborhood over the last few years, water, sewer, storm drainage. We also review plans for private development and where developers are making improvements to roads and sewer and water and storm drainage. And I know traffic is a big concern for a lot of folks, and we've been listening and trying to hear what we can about some of the traffic issues that we're seeing. So as you're probably noticing, this is an aerial photo mostly of this CIO. So here's the Tualatin River, here's Highway 99W, I-5 is about over this way. This is Tualatin Road across here, and 124th coming up, 115th, and then Hazelbrook here, and Jorgens about in this area. As far as some of the traffic issues we've been hearing, kind of juggling the microphone and notes here, but so we've heard a lot about volume and speed of traffic on Tualatin Road, and it's busy. And there's roughly about 10,000 vehicles a day drive Tualatin Road, which is a pretty significant amount. And it's a particularly high number during the rush hours, like during the morning and evening think you probably know that better than I do. Yeah, and how hard it is to turn left out is one of the issues that we hear about quite a bit. And yes, I have seen the line of school buses on Jurgens trying to turn left out about 3:30 on school days. And then, let's see, also, so speeding is one of the issues. We've heard about people crossing. So we fairly recently added the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, which are the flashing lights at each of the crossing islands to try to help you as you're trying to cross the road there. We also hear about people cutting through 115th at Hazelbrook to get to 99W northbound. So we hear a fair amount about that. That also tends to most be during the afternoon rush hour, but other times during the day. We also hear about concerns with people speeding on Hazelbrook and then also speeding on Jurgens. And Jurgens is pretty wide. We did recently restripe it to narrow the lanes down and then stripe in a bike lane and a parking lane down one side. And the main idea there was to try to visually narrow the road with the idea that it would slow vehicle speeds down, maybe at least a little bit. There's probably still people going faster than we'd like on that road. We've also added a crosswalk up here near the park. Right there near the park is the wrong spot. And some restriping at Hazelbrook. We took out, there was a yellow, I call it a skip stripe, so like a dotted yellow line that had been on Hazelbrook. We repainted that with solid, also to try to slow people down, also to not communicate passing though. We don't think passing is appropriate on that road. Northbound on 99, we know there's some traffic issues here in both directions, causing some delays getting out of Hazelbrook. With the school, we're aware of issues with kids trying to get to and from school, and parents trying to get their kids to and from school, and buses trying to get in and out. Unfortunately, we see that a lot at schools all over the region. So our next slide zooms out a little bit, and so Tualatin Road's here, and here's the river, and here's the CIO. One of the big things happening right now is the county's project on Tualatin Sherwood Road. And the work there, and they're widening that out to 5 lanes. One of the issues that I think we're seeing on Tualatin Road is a lot of people who are using Tualatin Road here to Highway 99 as a way to bypass traffic here on Tualatin Sherwood. I have high hopes that, as they someone said, as they should. I have high hopes that once this project is finished, that a number of people will go back to Tualatin Sherwood Road, and will start using it instead of Tualatin Road. Tualatin Road, I think, will still be busy, but we see that coming. And any other questions or other issues?
What is the projected completion date for Tualatin Sherwood Road?
In the year 2025, probably in the fall, is their current projected completion. They've had a lot of work there. They're also building a 66-inch water line underneath the road for capacity up towards the north and west. And
Are they on schedule?
I don't know, they're reasonably close. They are getting a lot done fairly quickly. I'm not sure of the exact schedule for the county's project. Yes.
Has the traffic impact study been performed on Tualatin Road, and what kind of mitigations are recommended to make sure that any impacts of the land development will not increase the delays on the highway, on the road?
Good question. That'll be coming up in a future slide. And, okay. As far as development goes, we as city staff are neutral. Our goal is to just look at the development, compare it to the code, study what its impacts might be. We are neither for nor against. But we do want to do our best to provide accurate, truthful information about it. And I will pass it over now to Steve. You can tell us more about the development process.
Thank you, Mike. So I'm just going to orient folks. many of you may already know this information, but for those of you who don't, Lam has applied for 2 applications. The first one is a mouthful called an industrial master plan. And that basically is an application that sets forth some special standards for things like setbacks, building height, and parking lot standards. And so there's an existing industrial master plan that applies to the site, and there are minor modifications to that master plan being sought. In addition, and probably the main event, is the architectural review application. And so what they're requesting is what's known as a Type 3 architectural review, which means that it's the highest level architectural review based on the building sizes. And so that comprises, it's called the Tux campus, a clever little name. It's T, a new office building, a central utility building called U, and then a lab, a building called X. There's some other improvements along with that, and then not listed on the slide, associated public improvements necessary to serve the development. So I think it's important to talk a little bit, we've said what they've applied for, but what happens before application, so folks understand that. So all applications are required to have a pre-application conference. This is required to happen 6 months before or closer to the application. As many of you attended and know, there's also a neighborhood developer meeting component that is required by the code. Once those 2 thresholds have been met, an application can be submitted, which begins a review period. We at the city, and so that's our community development team, as a whole have 30 days to review the application for completeness, is the term. And then we make a determination whether the application is complete and can go forward, or it's incomplete and it needs more information from the applicant.
Where are we now in that process?
Oh, you're jumping ahead, you're stealing my thunder, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah. So once an application is deemed complete, it goes through with public notice, and then we have a decision or a public hearing, in the case of these applications, public hearing within plus or minus 60 days. Once a decision at a public hearing is made, notice of decision is sent to anyone who participated in the hearing, either commented in writing or testified at the hearing. That decision becomes final within 14 days if it's not appealed. If it is appealed, the appeals are heard by the city council. The entirety of this whole process must happen within 120 days or less. Speaking of the public notice, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about this. First bullet point, or sub-bullet point, is the state law requirements. They're pretty minimal for public notice. Tualatin goes quite a bit above and beyond the public notice requirements. Properties within 1,000 feet, if a residential subdivision is within 1,000 feet, any part of it, that whole residential subdivision gets notice as well. Instead of the 14 days required by code for, required by state law for notice of decision, Tualatin code gives 20 days for those larger decisions like the land decision. And then in practice, going back to the previous slide, land use decisions are issued or a hearing is scheduled about 60 days later. So that's a much longer period in which to comment than is actually required by the code. And then there's a couple other additional notice elements which are not required by state law, but we do that goes above and beyond those state law requirements. We post detailed information about the project at our Tualatin Projects website. We also email all the CIOs, not just the CIO that the project is in, all CIOs, at the same time as we send property owner notice by mail. And then the applicant is responsible for putting up notification signs. You haven't seen them yet because the project hasn't been deemed complete. But once they do that, they have to submit an affidavit verifying that they have placed the notice sign on the site. And then we'll get to your question about where the application stands in just a couple more slides. So public comments, and this is intended, I hope, to be helpful to you all in participating in the Lam conversation. So you can do them in writing, email, mail. You can drop them off here at our offices at the front counter if you would like. You don't have to receive the notice to comment. You can comment as long as you're aware of it. You can also comment in person at the hearing. or you can submit written testimony at the hearing. There's a lot of different flavors and ways to participate in the public process. A couple other notes is the burden is on the commenter to submit their evidence. And so kind of building on what Mike said about staff being neutral, our role is to weigh evidence submitted by all parties, whether that's the applicant, whether that's someone who supports the application, whether that's someone who's against the application. And so in the same vein, effective comments on an application identify those specific approval criteria that apply to that application. They explain how the criteria is met if you believe they're met, not met if you believe they're not met, and why. Good comments also are specific. They should not, however, ask questions of the applicant or city staff. That's not evidence. It's not something the applicant may answer them. And within reason, of course, we're happy to answer questions, but we're not required to, and it's not part of the process. And then similarly, requesting that the applicant or city staff demonstrate that a project does or doesn't address something. If you don't believe that it addresses the criteria, the burden is on the burden is on you to make that case. So those are some important points. Last but not least, decisions. So again, building on this theme, I think of having a hearing body that is an impartial arbiter of the decision based on all of the available facts and information that have been put into the record. We have several components with conditions of approval. So they have to be related to and carry out a criteria in the code. They can't just be made up. There's also some constitutional limits, which are called rough proportionality, on how much actual requirements we can make of an applicant. So we can't ask an endless laundry list of things. And then we also have as other components of the final decision, staff findings and analysis. And so that's where we do that weighing of evidence and provide justification and support for those conditions and the ultimate decision, whether that's approval or denial or something in between. And then we have exhibits, which is all of the information when you see those 1,000-page packets of information in city council or planning commission online materials. You have all of the different things, and so that is evidence that the city and the applicant met notification requirements. All of the public testimony from you all, special agencies or other departments in the city comments, and then of course the required submittal materials that demonstrate that the application meets the requirements. So where are we in the process now? So we had the pre-application conference quite some time ago. It was sunny and not stormy, June 5th, 2024. They held the neighborhood developer meeting the evening after the afternoon pre-application conference. They turned around and submitted their application quite quickly, right after our July 4th holiday on July 8th. The city staff, I will note, did a pretty quick job. We turned it around in about 2 weeks rather than the required 30 days. And deemed it incomplete. We said they were missing information and that they needed to provide more information to proceed in the process. Here we are, dark and rainy, November 19th, and they're still incomplete. They have not yet submitted all the information necessary to move forward in the process. So we're essentially in a holding pattern. That's where we are now. Once the applications are deemed complete in the future, we then are in a position to be able to mail notices and send the CIO notices and update the website, and then that launches the formal comment period. Of course, people have been, and you all are welcome to comment now, but that is the formal comment period where we measure the length of it, right? And so the comment period's open now, and it closes not until the hearing closes, until the planning commission makes the decision to say that the record is closed. You can comment and testify in those many forms that I mentioned before up until that point. And so last but not least, the hearings to be scheduled are planning commission, TBD, but sometime in 2025. It's not going to happen this calendar year, and that would be consideration of the industrial master plan. And then the architectural review board, again, TBD in 2025, but it has to happen after the planning commission. It can't happen before. And that would be consideration of the architectural review application. So that's that Tux building and then the associated improvements. And with that, I will turn it back over to Mike to talk a little bit more about traffic.
So we are working with Lam on their traffic study. So they submitted an initial traffic study. We submitted some comments back saying, you know, these things need to be addressed. The way the modeling is done needs to be adjusted slightly to accommodate certain things to meet our standards. We're also applying the state's standards as well. We are coordinating with the state particularly because they are studying Highway 99. And some of our biggest concerns are traffic on 99 and 124, getting to and from Lam. This figure we asked to have put together based on their current estimate of their trip generation for the proposal. So that's if they build these 3 buildings, they anticipate several hundred new employees, and how many trips would that be? And to estimate it, they took a step beyond the normal practice and they actually looked at the zip codes of their current employees as the best approximation for where the new employees would be coming from. So that's how they decided how many go north, south, east, west. So they then distribute that on the roads that are going those directions. And these figures here are the percentage of traffic that would be added compared to the existing volume. So compared to the volume today,
Can you read a couple of the numbers for us? We forgot our glasses.
Sure, I'll get that. So their proposal, you know, here's the existing campus and buildings being built in this area. The T, U, and X buildings are right around this area. With their proposal, they would have 3 connections to Leviton Drive, so 3 driveways to Leviton, 3 connections to 108, and then 1 connection proposed to Tualatin Road right opposite 115. And so the numbers, Tualatin Road from site access opposite 115th to 124th, they would add about 12% to the traffic volume on that section of Tualatin Road.
So what is that amount?
Is that based on an average all day? Is that been analyzed based on peak travel times and what that increase would be?
These are particularly looking at the development peak hour. So I think they have a shift change would be a little earlier, so it would be about in the 4 to 5 o'clock hour. So the development peak hour, the daily volumes would be a little bit, I think, lower percentages because I think their traffic tends to be more concentrated in the morning and afternoon peak hours.
Is that first year or 10th year or final year?
So this is with the full development proposed compared to today's traffic volumes.
How many employees are we talking about? You said 200?
I think the number was it 600?
Okay, and how many total people can those buildings add? Right now you said they have 600, but that doesn't mean they couldn't add another 1,000 to those same buildings down the road.
Our understanding is that that's their planned use is 600. It may be possible they could try to cram in more in one way or another, but that's our understanding is that's the planned use. So we'll get to questions at the end. So I'll try to run through some of the numbers. So 12% on Tualatin Road from 115th to 124th, 5% on 124th north of Tualatin Road. There's quite a bit more traffic there on 124th and Tualatin Road now, which is why the percent's lower. The same number of vehicles, but a lower percentage heading southwest on 99W. On Tualatin Road, east of their proposed site access, it would be 6% to 108th, and then 1% to the east of that. I think there's a lot of traffic anticipated going in and out of the 108th
Then where are
driveways.
those people on 108 gonna go? Wouldn't that mean the percentages should be higher if on Fulton Road?
Yeah.
Or do they all live right across the street on 108?
108 has quite a bit lower volume. So the same number of vehicles here, it's a similar number of vehicles. This is the southern part of 108,
Do you have this,
getting down towards Leviton.
do you have this
Yeah, so the traffic study will have those full numbers listed in some of the various scenarios. And that should be coming in a few weeks for the applications complete. So some of the other percentages, 108 south of Leviton, again, lower volumes. It's 42% there, 83% on 108 between Tualatin and Leviton. So Tualatin Road having roughly 10,000 vehicles per day, roughly 1,000 in the peak hour. This 12% ends up being about 120 in round numbers. I'm not sure the exact, I don't have them all memorized. On 115th, they anticipated an increase of about 7% on 115th heading north, and then Hazelburg coming out. It's really hard to model exactly like what percent would take 115th or what percent would take Tualatin Road. I believe they estimated about a third of traffic going that direction would cut through.
So this is based on a preliminary document, this is not the final traffic impact study.
Correct, although I don't anticipate significant changes between these numbers and what will be in their final study. So the study is prepared by McKenzie Engineering, who is, includes professional traffic engineers, and as is typical practice, they're hired by the developer to do the study.
One question associated with that. So the numbers deal with just the number of employees that would, the new employees that would be generated. What about all the other traffic that's going to change direction now because there's new people going on to Tualatin Road? So then they go on to Jurgens, 108, 100 and different roads to get around all these people that are on this Tualatin Road.
Yeah, I think we can get to some more of that question later, but I think they take the traffic that would be going to Lam and then distribute it to the network. They try to make some estimate of any shift that would happen because of it. They're not projecting a significant level of congestion that would cause that kind of an increase. Some of the issues that I've been watching most closely are coming down 124th from 99 to Tualatin Road and making sure, as you know, right now in the mornings that fills up quite a bit. Working with the county who times our traffic signals, they anticipate being able to give more green time for that southbound left turn if it becomes necessary to keep it from backing up into the 99W intersection, which is where problems would really happen. So there are some other solutions that we can use to try to address traffic and traffic issues. Some of the things that we've done in the neighborhood, things like striping crosswalks, things like adding flashing lights at crosswalks. There are some places where speed zone reductions can be considered. Some of the rules are pretty complicated. 115th is one possibility. Hazelbrook and Jurgens would be a little more difficult because those need to get set by the state unless we can show that it meets particular definition for a residence district.
Why can't they just go down Herman Road instead of destroying our neighborhood?
And it's real hard for us to tell people what road they have to use.
We are.
Because I imagine you probably don't want us telling you what roads you have to use. And we also have some programs that we are using to address transportation issues. We have the neighborhood transportation safety program that we use for smaller projects like crosswalks or flashing lights, programs, small pieces of sidewalk that can help. So if there's a particular project we'd like to see, it can be submitted for that program as well. And should we move to question and answer, or is there? And here's our contact information if you'd like to reach us for more questions or things. I can see that there's a lot of hands that have been coming up and a lot of people who'd like to ask questions.
Did you want to introduce the facilitator?
lot of work, because website is pretty spectacular as far as, you know, the maps and the design and what Lam's doing. So the CIO was really, you know, real, everybody agreed that, yeah, let's let, and have him get your questions, and there are also some cards of questions that you'll read. If you want to speak, I can move the microphone around, if you think you're loud enough.
Yeah, I think so. Can you all hear me?
No.
Yeah.
All right, so let's read this one. Yeah. The intersection of can the intersection at Hazelbrook Road and 115th have 3 stop signs?
So there is a particular criteria that's set by the federal government through the manual and uniform traffic control devices for installation of all-way stops. And it needs to meet certain volumes to be able to justify being an all-way stop. And the reason for that is there are a number of places where communities have put in all-way stop control at an intersection, and it didn't have the volumes that are required. And so they ended up having a lot of people running the stop signs. And they're actually finding in some of those cases that crash rates actually went up, even though the stop signs were designed or intended to bring crash rates down. So I don't think that intersection will actually have the volume to justify the all-way stop control. And I think even with Lam.
That leads to the next question. People are running the stop signs on 115th and Hazelbrook, and I've almost been hit 4 times since January. Who wants to cover that?
Between the donut breaks.
Yeah, so traffic enforcement in that intersection is primarily done by our school resource officers during school crossing hours during that time. You know, like I said, there's 4 to 5 officers. Sometimes our shift minimums are 3. So at any one time, there's maybe 3 officers working. And we try to get to wherever we can, the best that we can. So we do have what we call a directed patrol program. So those are information that you can email either to myself or to our traffic supervisor, which is Sergeant Eric French. And we take those information, we take those complaints that come in, and we will specifically set our traffic officers or our patrol officers to those locations on certain days and times to work that intersection or that specific area and try to locate what those things are. So if you have those specific issues, I would encourage you to send us the information, and we'll do our best to get out and do some enforcement.
Chief, may I comment on that, please?
Sure.
I live at the corner of 115th and Hazelbrook Road. That corner is treated primarily as a yield sign, both for traffic going to the school and trying to turn left or go to 99 on Hazelbrook. I have seen cars not give pedestrians their right of way to step into the crosswalk and go. There are kids waiting there to cross, and they wait because the cars won't let them. We're already a bypass. We don't want to be a bypass square.
Could I add a comment to that? Some of the issue I see with that corner is some of the issue I see is that there's lower visibility because there's now parking on Hazelbrook where there didn't used to be. And so people have to feet forward to see.
Parking plenty of park.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at that, and believe we can adjust the no, we can add a no parking zone right at the corner if we need to. Let me take a look at that. And actually, that's something we just look at operational. But for some of the smaller projects like that, they can be submitted as a suggestion to the neighborhood transportation safety program, and we look at all those. Some of those are small enough that we can just go ahead and do it like per se. Others require more work and evaluation, and we actually program money for it.
I live on Chippewa Trail,
And making a left turn during rush hour usually means using the Island Refuge or left turn lane to get out. Straight across from Chippewa, there's a little cemetery. And a lot of pedestrians cross there. And for a pedestrian to get across there, people are coming around the curve, they're going fast usually. It seems very unsafe, we might need a crosswalk there. The other question I have is, what about truck traffic deliveries and things? Does that have a separate route to the campus?
Thank you for your comment. The request for a crosswalk near Chippewa Trail, that would be a great suggestion for the neighborhood transportation safety program, and that's one that we could look at. I'm hesitant. Basically, I don't think it's safe to mark a crosswalk on that part of Tualatin Road without supplemental devices like the flashing lights. So we would need to program a capital project, possibly through that neighborhood transportation safety program, to build the accessible ramps and flashing lights that we would need to make that crosswalk safe.
Yeah, because there's cars coming around that corner awfully fast. If you don't have a traffic signal, someone's gonna get hit.
And then the second part of the question, Lam is planning for their trucks to come in and out via Leviton.
So on that topic, there's a bunch of questions that are basically a version of this is, how is realignment of the Lam employee exit, I'm assuming from their proposal, onto Leviton such a big problem? The benefits are practical and obvious.
And I'm sorry, I can't answer that on behalf of Lam. It's, they will, if the proposal's built, they would continue to have 3 access to the Leviton. They would have 3 to 108. I think 1 or 2 are being built now with Building G. And they would open up a connection from the Lam site to the existing JAE access opposite 115th. And unfortunately, I can't explain why for them it's not working.
Showing where those roads are that you're talking about.
When did you get there? This one. All right, so this is Tualatin Road here. This is 115th, and this is the existing JAE access that we
Can't use that right now.
Right, they've currently got it gated off here. This is Leviton, and this is 108th, and these are the accesses that they're building now. And these are their proposed accesses to Leviton.
Right, but
Some sort of driveway through here.
what about the one with Tualatin?
This is the access
That's
to
the only one
Tualatin.
they're gonna have, not having.
Correct. They had initially proposed an access over here that we raised a lot of concern about and had a lot of issues with, and so they revised the proposal to take that one out. I believe those at the neighborhood meeting also raised a lot of concern about that access. What I like about the change is it keeps most of the land traffic between 115 and 124. And by taking out this access, means less traffic.
I think the people live between 115 and 124.
Well, that amount of traffic would have been there with either driveway configuration. To answer one question, they are proposing to install the planned traffic signal here. According to their traffic study, if this were a two-way stop, there wouldn't be enough gaps in the traffic on Tualatin Road to turn out. I know those people currently turning out at 115th already have a long wait sometimes. And with the addition of more traffic on the south side, that would push that over capacity to the point where we can see it as a safety problem. So I would see, I know there's some opposition to the signal. I think there's also some benefits to the signal in that it would actually create more gaps on the rest of Tualatin Road. So there would actually be more gaps to turn out of 112, 109, and probably even over to Jurgens.
Would that require turning lanes at that intersection with the light?
So the existing center turn lane would remain. The
Would require right turn lanes at this house?
we would be, and that's an issue that's still be worked out, is whether there's an eastbound right turn lane here for traffic going into the land driveway. Even though there's some standards that would meet it for a westbound right turn lane, we are working with them. Don't think it would be a good idea to add, because that would kind of advertise 115th as a cut through a lot more and would encourage that. It also would require them to get property from a private property owner that they may not be able to get property from. So that's not part of the proposal. Whether this eastbound right turn lane for traffic heading into Lam is required is yet to be worked out.
It's only one lane road.
On that same topic, have they looked at what's going to happen? Many people are here that live in that Fox Run neighborhood. When that light turns red, I didn't see anything on the traffic study that shows how many people are now going to cut right through that residential neighborhood at 112th and out in Kalispell, where children are coming to school, going home, and children playing in that neighborhood right there.
Yeah, and I can see the concern that people would cut through here up 112th and then turn left on Kalispell 115th here.
Yeah.
Same distance.
So you guys think distance, but it is quite a bit slower because of the residential nature of the neighborhood. I know something to it. I've driven it as a, like, checking out what the route would be for it. The traffic engineer's opinion is that it wouldn't be a significant amount. That's their opinion, I'm reporting.
See if you don't live there.
The Hazelwood, cut through Hazelwood. And they're already doing that. I back to Hazelwood, and I hear that traffic go by from 3 o'clock, which is schools, to 5 o'clock, which is the employees, to 6 and 7 o'clock, which are the people that do it because they don't like to go all the way to 124th. Okay.
So for those who couldn't hear, his concern is about traffic using Jurgens to Hazelbrook as a cut through if there's a traffic signal here.
Why don't we put speed bumps in it?
That's the kind of request that would be a good candidate for the neighborhood transportation safety program. Although I know speed bumps can be pretty controversial.
The only city that doesn't have
Yeah, I know there's some people that really think speed bumps are needed in places, some people hate them. So.
Trying to get some folks to the back.
Looking at that plan, the parking in the north section, the existing road off of 108 that goes into it, why can't that whole parking in the front section or the north section go out onto 108? I don't know if that would solve any problems, but.
Instead of Fulton Road.
Instead of Tualatin Road.
So I believe the plan is to connect that parking lot to 108.
Then why do they need Tualatin Road? Who's gonna go on to Tualatin Road at 115 if they're gonna go out on 108?
Fair question and point that could be raised. I think one of the concerns would be if this access wasn't here, there'd be more traffic driving Tualatin Road to 108 and then turn in, which would be more traffic in this area.
I don't know if you could pull up the percentage map of increased traffic. First question is, what's the maximum capacity of Tualatin Road? And also, also, because of all these new crosswalks we have, making a left-hand turn like from Teton onto Tualatin Road is very difficult. And if you add more traffic, if it's a small percentage or a big percentage, you're gonna have backup at all of your left-hand or right-hand deals. So your percentages tells me increased traffic, but it doesn't really focus on all the traffic problems around there. And again, big advocate of going to Herman's Road, and it's a new road that's just been repaved and all, why not do that?
So, I think your first question was the capacity of Tualatin Road. And the capacity of a road tends to be limited by its intersections. So in this case, it would be the Herman Road signal and the 124th signal. They're the only places currently where Tualatin Road has to stop or has a limitation. The maximum capacity that could accommodate would be getting into the range of about 20,000 vehicles a day. But before that, we get into the traffic signal warrant that we call interruption of continuous traffic, which once we get past about 15,000 is when it would be almost impossible to turn left out there, particularly in the afternoon peak hours.
Where are we at now?
About 10, and about 10 in this area here, a little bit lower in this area.
When I was first approved, the traffic flow was planned to use Leviton, Herman, and 124th, not Tualatin Road. Why did it change?
So, and I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the previous round of planning and what was required at that point.
That was my question. I'm a homeowner that, I'm an old timer, so I've been here for 30 years, but I remember sitting in the original the informational meeting when Lam moved in, and that was the selling point was everything's gonna be away from Tualatin Road and the access would be up to 99 and back, Herman Road back to town. So that was not gonna impact us at all.
So it sounds like we had an existing agreement, and that's.
That's what I've always thought. So when I heard that a light on Tualatin Road, it was like, wait a minute, that's not what I understood when it first started, but it should be in the documentation somewhere, in the meetings, minutes.
You're aware of any history on that?
Like the history of Lam's previous land use approvals, do they exist?
The previous land use approvals, yes, they do exist. There would be nothing in the previous approvals that would bind this, like if the previous building approvals that would bind this new building to meeting that.
But could we at least track down if that's what the plan was? Is that possible to do?
It's possible, yes.
Do you remember what year that was?
I don't remember those great details, but.
Yeah.
It was
95?
95 or?
That was before the Novellas moved in.
Maybe it was.
Lam is a new owner of Novella, so maybe there's a gap in there too. And the two companies operate completely differently in philosophy.
Thank you.
But the city was adamant on the traffic.
Yeah, I dealt with my business before. and
So you know that?
And
Novellas
that
is
light
more
was,
general.
that
Lamb's
activity
were
was
very
supposed to be
persistent.
south of Fulton Road, not anywhere near Fulton Road. And right now, we're off 106th. It takes us at least in the morning or in the evening, 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, sitting in Jeffwood Estates just to get on 12 Road next turn. And I just wonder who the hell is watching out for us, the taxpayers that have been here 30-some odd years to help build Tualatin. Because somebody sold this property to land, and they had to know what the hell they were doing. People versus government.
May I jump in just a quick, because I want to address that also. When we went to the June meeting, you can correct me if I'm wrong, with Lam told us that the only reason they were looking at Tualatin Road was because the city plan showed a future traffic light being put there.
And that's what Lam told us, made them say, hey, we can just use this.
That doesn't match the conversations I recall with Lam. Because we've asked them to look at just going to Lebanon. I think a couple other, we pushed. A couple other things about it. I think so if this access connection is not here, there'd be more traffic coming out 108th, and which could lead to 108th needing to be signalized. Which then becomes.
Why can't they use Herman?
Yeah, I think a couple of the other issues that come up, one is the functional class of the road. And this goes back to before my time with Tualatin, but in the previous transportation system plan from 2012-14, there was a lot of objection to traffic on Tualatin Road. So it was designated as a major collector, and Leviton was designated as an arterial, with the intention that that would be like the major route for traffic, and that's where traffic should be going to. Unfortunately, what that ended up doing, and that doesn't actually match the traffic volumes. Usually the higher volume road is the arterial, the lower volume road is the collector. What that does with the access, our code is access needs to be taken off the lower classification road. And so that would push more access to Tualatin Road. But looking at the practicality of it, we're wanting to keep the 3 accesses on Leviton, wanting to keep that there.
Could Tualatin Road be reclassified?
I don't know if this is possible, this is more of a suggestion than a question, but if you were to lower the speed limit on Tualatin Road to 25 and it was higher for Leviton, then the employees would choose the higher speed limit.
If you could get people to go 25 on Tualatin Road.
I understand where you're going with that. So speed limits in Oregon, except for certain special cases, are set by the state. So like we can designate a residential 25 on roads like 112th in Kalispell, for example. We can try to push for it on 115. The definition of a residence district for the state is what guides it. And it's driveways within 150 feet on average, or fronting multifamily. So we can't find a way for Tualatin Road to qualify for that. So it would be the state setting the speed zone, which tends to be based on existing speed of drivers. And my concern is if we tried to submit it for a state investigation, they might actually tell us we have to raise it.
If I may, 115 has a huge apartment concentration on the west side. You just said multifamily, okay? There are at least 2 apartment complexes that front or adjacent to 115. So that qualifies as multifamily. If you want to slow something down, slow 115th down.
So that is one option.
Don't pave it.
That is one option that we consider and we believe would be a 25 speed zone on 115. How much that would actually change driver speed, we can speculate how much they obey the speed.
So in case people didn't hear, one option is to look at a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone on 115.
We tried that 30 years ago.
So.
Thank you, Brett, for taking the mic over.
Mike, I wanted a clarification. You talked about the number of cars in the traffic study that Lam has provided. How many additional cars a day were they talking about? You said something around 250 or 260 cars, is that correct?
So I'm sorry I don't remember the exact numbers. But so from what I recall, the proposal was about 600 vehicles per day, or sorry, 600 new employees in the new buildings. And it was about 2,300 trips per day. And of that, I believe about 250 would be at both the morning and the afternoon peak hours for total volumes. Actually, I think I'm off the count. I think it was.
10,000, 1,200. You said 10,000 cars every day, 12% is 1,200.
Right, on Tualatin Road particularly, so there is quite a bit, that's about half of the new traffic. So I think it's more in the 500 range in the morning and the evening peak hours with lower amounts during the day.
You gotta stand up.
12% of 10,000 is stolen.
So one of the big problems we see on Tualatin Road trying to get in and out of the neighborhood is visibility. People pull out too far, you can't see. If you have a short car like I do, you're not gonna see any way to get out left or right. What you have on Herman Road is a high visibility area.
Yeah.
It's a good place to put traffic because they can see, we don't have school kids, we don't have bicycles, we don't have pedestrians so much. I understand there probably won't be more trucks because of this expansion, but I don't see much pressure on that road.
Herman. I think as far as the visibility goes, if there are particular places where you think the visibility is limited, you want us to trim back vegetation, please let us know. We can send a group out. I will say there's a caveat. The nice big line of giant sequoias on the south side of Tualatin Road right near 108. We don't have any plans to cut down. So we will not be trimming that vegetation. But other vegetation, like hedges and smaller things, we can. We should kind of follow along.
So what I'm talking about on getting in and out of the neighborhood is not a vegetation issue. It is people pulling out beyond the line over a car lane, sometimes two, not really paying attention to who's coming, deciding they have the right of way to leave, like left off of Juergens, without waiting for the people who are turning left off Tualatin onto Juergens. It's a little bit of a Wild West out there at certain times of the day.
Yeah, I would like for it to be easier to get out. Just a reminder for everyone, it is legal. I'm teaching my 15-year-old how to drive now, so. So the rule is stop at the line or before you cross the crosswalk, and then it is fully legal to creep forward to where you have good visibility, before you get into the travel lane, to then look and make sure you have good visibility. But you are required to stop before you get in the crosswalk, like at Hazelbrook at 115.
I was wondering how many shifts Lam runs, and do the timeout that they leave work correspond with when the buses are picking up the kids from school? That increases traffic around there and the danger level for the kids at school.
Thank you. So from what they've told us, they plan to run one shift and would end with most of the traffic into the road in that 4 to 5 o'clock hour, which would actually put them a little bit after the school dismissal time.
Were they doing 12-hour shifts?
I don't know how many hours. I believe they modeled the morning peak in the, I believe it was in the 7 to 8 hour.
Okay, so I live on Cheyenne Way, which is right before Tualatin Road and Herman Road split if you're driving west. Yeah, there's a traffic light right there. There's a traffic light at 90th at the Country Club. If we add more cars, I don't care if they're going on Tualatin Road or Herman Road, you are not considering the impact on our neighborhood to be able to get out. It's hard now to turn left. they remodeled that road. When we moved in, it didn't exist the way it does now. You have to go across a right turn lane, a lane going straight, or curving off more to the right, a lane going straight, a middle lane, and then you can get into the left turn lane. Sometimes that's very difficult, and we're talking about adding more cars. It doesn't matter what else is happening. Nobody seems to be considering the impact on our particular neighborhood, and we have no egress outside of Tualatin Road. The neighborhood, both entrances are on Tualatin Road.
Very dangerous.
Yeah, I recognize that that's a difficult left turn out particularly. I can say that the traffic study is not expecting a significant amount of traffic on that portion of Tualatin Road.
I have trouble believing that.
They have less than 1%, and it was less than 50 vehicles per hour.
Their number there is probably twice as much as
Yeah,
Tualatin.
they're-
Urban and Tualatin Road, they all come to that same part of Tualatin Road. And so that is twice as much, and so 1% of twice as much, and again, I don't know that I buy that 1% change.
So they were modeling most of the traffic using Teton to Tualatin Sherwood Road for traffic heavy use.
I doubt it. Teton's not going to drive it.
I know at the beginning you were providing two different applications that they were making, one that related to the traffic and the other that related to the actual architectural stuff, right? There are two applications that are being, okay. So my question is, I'm familiar more with stuff that I've tried to do in the past with institutions related to conditional land use permit. Is this a conditional land use permit? It is, okay. So there's no possibility then here for them that if they fail on the traffic side, that what could be the leverage is to say, we have no problem with you building your buildings and growing your company, but if you fail on one level, are we able to say you don't get the application approved for the architectural? I mean, are those things contingent upon each other?
The direct answer to your question is yes. If they failed the traffic study, the application would be in jeopardy. I think I'd like Mike to talk maybe about what failing the traffic study looks like, so we're all in agreement on that term.
So we have published traffic study requirements that are on the city website. You go to tualatin.gov, your government engineering. That'll be one of the buttons that shows up is Tualatin traffic study requirements that they need to meet. And we would need to be able to point to something there, and beyond just like a minor technicality, but point to something there that they've not satisfied, or a way that they haven't mitigated to meet our code. I'm not seeing any of those in the drafts I've seen so far of the traffic study. And I think last we heard that would be coming in the week after Thanksgiving. So once it comes in, I think it becomes public record, so you can obtain it. And you can look through and compare to the guidelines and see if you think there are any where it does fail. I'm not seeing any from my perspective.
But that really, bottom line, is the only clout that you actually really have as a neighborhood then, is that you can show that the impact is, if they do come out on Tualatin Road, that it surmounts whatever the criteria is, that you would be able to say then you can't have a building. And so they have to make a decision as to whether they want to grow their company and come out on one road, or if they want to say, I guess we stay where we're at.
So as I understand it, to make a comment that would stop it, you would have to effectively find a specific criteria in the code and clearly demonstrate that it doesn't meet that. And Steve, I don't know if there's any more that you want to add on that.
that's an accurate assessment. I guess just maybe to clarify, I mean, what we're talking about as far as failure is like an intersection within the area of this project that operationally doesn't meet standards. It completely fails. And so that's different than, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of lived experiences with challenges getting in and out of an intersection, but failing is very different. Is that correct?
Nothing other than gridlock?
So, Tualatin standards and code use a concept called level of service that essentially gives like a letter grade to traffic at a certain intersection. And our standard is level of service D or better for signalized intersections, level of service E or better for unsignalized intersections. And so to translate that to English, the kinds of situations where that criteria would be triggered would be places where it takes you like 3 or 4 cycles to get through a light on a regular basis, or you're waiting for multiple minutes and land is really contributing a lot of extra traffic to it. Through state law, we can't really enforce that if it's like, 1 car an hour coming through an intersection that's already bad, and we can't say it fails on that. But if they're adding significant numbers of traffic to an intersection that's either already failing or would be failing with the additional traffic, they would then need to propose mitigation measures. One of those, for example, would be the traffic signal opposite 115, where it would be failing without the signal, and then proposing the signal to get to a level of service that would meet the standards.
So I'm going to assume that Lam is proposed to pay for the traffic light at 115th, is that correct?
Yes.
It would seem to me that it'd be better served to put a light in short Jurgens where the buses come out, because somebody's going to get killed there one of these days. I don't know if you guys really look at the traffic flow, but those guys driving those buses and women are
really good.
Yeah, but it is a big problem, and I think it's a hell of a lot more important to have a light at Jurgens than it is 115. But if they're going to pay for it, I'll pay for it. I don't care about that. I'm worried about my kids.
I'm one of those school bus drivers he's talking about. I work for Tiger Tualatin School District, and I drive a special needs school bus. We're on Tualatin Road from 6:15 in the morning till about 4:45 at night. You showed that the traffic pattern is going to increase 12.5% from 115th to 124th. Well, there's 4 apartment complexes there that we stop at 3 and 4 times a day. And the traffic already is horrendous. You put more traffic on there, there's going to be, and people don't pay attention to our stop signs. You get that, Chief?
Got it.
Anyway, we don't need more traffic on 12th.
So we are proposing to add have a traffic signal at Tualatin Road at Jurgens in the transportation system plan that's currently in draft form, which would help the school buses get out, because I've seen that as bad. A signal at 115th would provide that option for buses leaving the school if they chose to route that direction.
They can't do that.
And, so as far as the potential signal at Tualatin and Jurgens, at least the study is not showing enough land-generated trips for us to be able to require them to pay for a signal there.
Two comments. I live at the end of Hazelbrook by the Christmas tree bush. So that's Hazelbrook and Jurgens. There is stop signs there. I don't know why they're there. It's kind of a suggestion. And
I've heard from comments that, yes, during school times, they do write tickets, warnings. How about a big healthy fine for running that stop sign? Chief?
$265.
Pardon?
$265.
Well, I've heard that mostly the beginning that was, warnings. Oh, but whatever. Second comment is, I read the website before coming here tonight, and I believe it said, and correct me if I'm wrong, Leviton Road was a concrete, heavy-duty, heavy truck, heavy traffic road. Okay, so if they come out on Tualatin Road, that's blacktop. Who's gonna fix it when it's torn up from all this additional traffic?
So Leviton is concrete. You know, it was designed with heavy truck traffic in mind. I think as far as, I mean, Tualatin Road is asphalt. It's a fairly beefy asphalt section. And,
Potholes occur in asphalt, not in concrete, so much.
so much. I think I can say that when we're designing the road pavement, the trucks make so much more load on it. Roads fail for two reasons: weathering and getting pounded. The weight of and the pounding effect on the asphalt goes up exponentially with the weight of the vehicle. So typical road design for a pavement for a section with any kind of truck traffic, they don't even consider the number of cars. It's all about taking care of, it's all about the damage that the trucks would cause over time. So I don't see a big change this way, but Lam would also be paying street maintenance fee based on their development. So they'd be paying, like you all are, for road maintenance.
A couple more questions.
Okay, I'm under the impression that when you come off of 115 and you go straight into their new driveway / street, that there will be a new parking structure on the right that they purchased property from JAE. Is that correct? Anybody know? Brett, do you know?
I think that they have purchased a piece of land from JAE.
From JAE on that one map. My question is, has anybody thought to talk to Lam to see if they could purchase the land that JAE owns on Leventon, opposite where that white section is down there on Leventon? Put the parking lot, yes, put the parking lot down there. And close off Tualatin Road. Don't make an entrance there.
So the current proposal doesn't include any development on that piece of property. The part up here that Lam acquired from JAE. So I'm not aware of any current plans there.
Can we ask Lam to do that maybe? Do a swap? Anybody from Lam here?
Yeah, I mean, comments can be made. Anyone can ask Lam whatever you'd like to.
I've got one question, which is, it looks to me like there's a road from the north parking lot down here, and it's this far from Leviton, but there's a drainage, like a stormwater right there. Like, what would it take to either remove that requirement or somehow, like, that's the missing link? That's the, the driveway used to go here, they moved the property line. Does anybody know why can't they just connect that?
Substantial grade reduction there.
I asked them the same question. Cause yeah, I was thinking the same thing. We're looking at how could we just get out that direction. It does go down quite a bit. And so, we asked them, they heard, I think loud and clear at the neighborhood meeting a few months back about the concerns about access to 12th Road. That's part of the reason why they deleted the access near 112. I asked them again about that and pushed, but they said it just was not possible with their development. And so, thank you all for your interest in all of this and coming out and listening. Thank you that you haven't tarred and feathered me yet. I think, we're here to provide information, to really do the best we can to get accurate numbers out and make it just an accurate, informed discussion, decision, debate, whatever it becomes. If you have any questions or comments that you want to get from us, feel free to give us a call or email, and we will do our best to get information to you. And we'll do our best to be watching out for a lot of the needs that we've heard through the process. Again, I want to mention the Neighborhood Transportation Safety Program. If you have particular ideas that you want to submit, that also goes through our website. If you want to just email it to me, I can pass them along as well. But thank you all for your interest and your care for your community and for coming out.
Bonnie's got one more question. Here you go.
I've been here for 35 years, and when the population was 6,800, now it's about 26,000. We have the mayor here today. It looks to me, it sounds to me that we really have a problem between industrial and neighborhood. And Tualatin, in the past 35 years that I've been here, has done a really good job of doing mixed family, residential, getting us having some industrial, so we have the work base. But now we have the problem, and what my question is, I know that the engineers are neutral, but who in our city government is in charge of having us have a livable and lifestyle? And is that the city council? Who is that? Because I know it's not you guys, and we're hearing lots of specifics, but we've got to take in the neighborhood, and then right across the street we have industrial. And we can't leave it to the engineers because they don't get to say, no, that's not a good livability idea. So who does? Who can we go to?
I'm going to recommend that you contact the CIO. Okay, and we've been through a lot. I recognize so many of you from our nice things like fairs at Jurgens Park, but we've been successful on several issues in the community, and it's going to take this for your success. Oh my gosh, Grimm's, he's still working on that, but they did have some redone. The gas station at Pony Ridge was a big issue that we had. The dog park, oh man, and it's going strong and people love it. And making Tualatin Road safer with crosswalks and traffic calming device. So we work in partnership with the city, and you can get on our website and suggestions that you have, and that we can then take them to, take them first to the board, and then they'll go to the city. So please use your, the CIO for assistance and help that you need. And in closing, because we all want you to be able to get home before the wind starts, is our secretary, Kate Monty, is going to just do the closing. Thank you.
On behalf of the Riverpark CIO, we wanted to personally thank the presenters for doing a great job, Brett for facilitating the open forum, and mostly to all of you for being here. Really good discussion. We are very concerned about everybody's concerns in our neighborhood. But before we actually end tonight, I wanted to let you know about our next community event, and it's going to be our 3rd annual community fair at Jurgens Park. Our date is set for May 17th? Yeah, May 17th. And, our 4th annual, I am a year behind. So we hope to see you there. But thanks again, and yes.
You're gonna take all the information from us, right? I'm a car. I don't get the feeling in 35 years in this town
process about ARB and the planning commission. The planning commission is the planning commission is made up of residents of Tualatin. Then the first group that's going to hear this, they will have a hearing that you can attend. This is your first line of residents who have some sway over Lam and also have some sway over what the city does. You also have the Architectural Review Board. Again, that's made up of residents, architects, and Councilor Sidney Hillier. When the Planning Commission and the Architectural Review Board make their decisions, if they go ahead and they approve both, and residents want to appeal it, then it does come to City Council. So I just want to let you know that we are listening. The Planning Commission is getting all your emails. ARB, everyone in City Council is getting your emails. We are hearing them. We just have to wait for the process to go through. But this is where your line of defense, if you will, is these three bodies. Thank you.
And with that, let's conclude this meeting and get home and dry. Thank you
Thank you.
It's, oh no, thanks. Because, you know, the new parents are different than how we think, so.